Alright, people, this is late. I know this is late. This actually happened last Friday, and yes, this is Monday. Well, I'm actually filming it on Monday now. And I'm gonna be honest, I've been playing Burial at Sea because everyone knows I'm a huge Bioshock fan, and the DLC just came out, so I have been playing the ever loving crap out of that game. So I pretty much forgot about this video. But I have watched SmackDown. I had a chance to watch SmackDown as well as TNA. TNA has already been filmed. All I have to do is just talk about SmackDown and then put it all together, and boom, there you go. So let's get started with talking about SmackDown because I really want to get back to this DLC. Okay, it has been shown many times that SmackDown is a far superior show when it comes to promoting a pay-per-view. They have done everything they can possibly do to amp up the Survivor Series, or at least get it moving when it comes to all these feuds that are building up. I love the Wyatt family. I can't emphasize enough how much I love these psychotic heels. And not only how they're mysterious, the way they came together, it's just the fact that how well they're working, feuding with practically anybody that comes their way. And now they finally have a Survivor Series match, but it's going to be Rowan and Harper versus the Beard and the Best, or the Best and the Beard. Either or is going to be awesome. And even if Bray Wyatt is not going to be performing in the ring, it doesn't matter. The guy actually commands respect. No matter, he can walk, and he can just walk with that music on or without the music. Knowing it is Bray Wyatt, he still demands respect. Even when he talks, people listen. So he doesn't really need to be involved at all. The guy is really that powerful of a character. And even with Rowan and Harper in the ring, shoot, their little grunts and groans alone has really gotten over on the whole Manchester audience. I absolutely love the Manchester crowd. They had a lot more fun on SmackDown than they did on Raw. And that's just my personal opinion. But honestly, as for moving on from that and moving on to the Divas matches, I will say that Natalya's match that she had with AJ Lee was far more entertaining than the Funkadactyls and the Bellas. I don't know why. The Bellas and the Funkadactyls were really off. I mean, for some reason, they were really slow. They were very sloppy in the ring. They weren't all together. And I know the Bellas know better. And I know that Cameron and Naomi are starting to get better with their craft. But either or, they were very sloppy in the ring. And going back to the first Divas match, I still believe that Tamina Snuka needs to break away from AJ Lee, because AJ Lee is still being shadowed by Tamina Snuka. Not only that, Tamina and Natalya are probably the best opponents there are when it comes to any performance done by a diva. Like, seriously, straight up. I really do feel that they need to do something about this. Like, honestly, they really do need to start breaking her up and have Tamina go on her own or go against AJ for the championship and have a triple threat match between Natalya and Tamina Snuka. Because let's face it, AJ Lee only has that one technical move. That's all she has. And Tamina Snuka has a lot under her belt. She can knock her out with one fell swoop. It doesn't even matter about that. But her versus Natalya will be the best match to see on Survivor Series. I'm hoping that actually does happen. But as for the Bella Twins, I am starting to grow. They're starting to grow on me. I'm really starting to like Brie, because Brie is really starting to improve and update how she update her performance in the ring. Not only that, she's using submission moves. She didn't tonight, but she's starting to use submission moves more in her match. And not only her, but also AJ Lee. And I'm really impressed with that. And I really do feel that a lot of the divas need to start using submission holds and a lot more technical moves to start and to be a little bit more fluid, as well as be a little bit more entertaining in the ring, because they will make the crowd bored quick. Now, speaking of boring, Alberto Del Rio. I didn't really much care for this guy because he's the most boring champion in the history of boring champions, besides JBL being number one. It was downright hilarious, the fact that they were doing that arm wrestling match in the ring, challenged John Cena to arm wrestling, lost twice in like 2 seconds. I mean, I laughed, and I just still find it quite funny that everybody in the entire arena hates John Cena. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I have a huge amount of respect for John Cena, because John Cena stays true to his character. He stays true to who he is. He's not trying to be a phony. He's not trying to be a fake. He's not trying to be a wannabe. He is who he is. You can tell. He's great as a face, and everyone keeps saying he needs to reinvent himself and do this. I understand that, yes, his whole his character got a little stale after a while. But I have to respect the fact that even after his legendary feuds that he has had, he still stayed true to who he was. He did not try to deviate from that. And even if he did, it still worked best for the storyline. Now, people keep saying that John Cena is all in their faces, is all up in their grills, trying to, yeah, I said grill. But either or, he's all up in everybody's face trying to over promote himself, and everyone's sick of Cena. He has the B Championship belt. Yes, I love the World Heavyweight Championship belt as much as the next person, but he has the B belt. It's the B belt in comparison to the WWE Championship belt. Who is the WWE Champion? Randall Keith Orton. He's not the top guy anymore. He's like the B level. He's like at the B tier of the Breakfast Club. So y'all cannot talk about John Cena being in y'all's face because he's the B guy. He's a number B guy. Well, not number, but the letter B guy. So y'all can't really talk much about John Cena. That's my humble opinion. But I have a huge amount of respect for him. And I really do think that he is doing something for the World Heavyweight Championship belt. He's giving it the respect that it deserves. And that's how I personally feel about it. But I'm moving on from there. Honestly, the matches were like phenomenal. The tag team match, good grief. I loved it. I really did love the match. The Usos versus Rowan and Harper. Like, I really absolutely loved that match. That match was like straight up hardcore for a tag team match. And it really shows that Rowan and Harper can be separate besides being a part of the Wyatt family, which it was all about Bray Wyatt. You can see Rowan and Harper literally going out on their own and can hold their own against the Usos. It was a given that the Usos were going to lose because they have to. The Wyatt family has to have some kind of a holding going into Survivor Series, but it was still a good match. They gave it their all, and they did not look bad. Even though they lost, they still look good doing it. They still look good doing that match overall. And honestly, guys, the final match of the night, I didn't think I cared much about because, let's face it, Ryback and the forgettable one, Curtis Axel, they practically did their best to give them something to do because they're no longer Paul Heyman guys, even though I believe Curtis Axel's playing both sides. But since they're both no longer Paul Heyman guys, they had to give them something to do. So, of course, they're going to put them against CM Punk. Since CM Punk went against both of them, it's a given. And then you have Daniel Bryan thrown in the mix. That was a good match. But it's a given that these guys really do work well together because they went ROH together. That's a given. You're going to put on a great match. But Ryback? I don't know, man. Like, seriously, I really don't know what to say about Ryback anymore. He's not as hardcore as he was when he first started out. I really don't know what happened to his character. Just like Tamina Snuka, when she tapped out within 2 seconds of Natalya, I really do think that whole match was fixed. I don't know what to say about Ryback. He's not the powerhouse that he used to be. And I know he's a lot more hardcore than that. And Curtis Axel, yeah, of course he's going to get punched around. He's a forgettable one. But the messed up part is, he got punched around by the Wyatt family, and you're the IC Championship holder. You see why I want that belt to go to somebody else? But anyway, guys, I love SmackDown. Overall, I absolutely think that this was a great show. It did a really good job in promoting Survivor Series. The matches themselves, the way they started off by having the tag team match with Rowan and Harper versus the Usos. Excellent, excellent match. Sure, we had a few fillers in between, but those matches are the ones that set out best for me. And even if you had those fillers, it still moved on fluently, and it didn't really interrupt the show so much. So I really didn't mind it at all. I really didn't pay much attention to it because they really did do a good job in promoting Survivor Series, in my humble opinion. So I think it was an overall great show. It was great it was in Manchester, England, because you don't really get a lot of shows coming out there. And I think the crowd was absolutely awesome. But that's my humble opinion. So let's move on to my actual footage that I already shot that night of TNA. I honestly am looking forward to seeing Turning Point. They actually have pretty great matches put together. But my question is, with all of these great matches coming out on Turning Point and you have it for free, how are you going to make a profit off of this? Like, seriously, you're going back to the Impact Zone in Orlando. And I'm wondering, like, what are you getting out of this? Like, you're not going to have this charged the pay-per-view. You have excellent matches with the Bull Rope match, with the match between Bully Ray and Anderson, career versus club. You have pretty much a really great World Heavyweight Championship tournament going on. It's absolutely awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But how are you gonna make a profit doing this? You're having it for free on primetime TV, and hopefully you'll get some ratings out of this. I'm just really hoping that TNA does well. I mean, seeing how they have such a great card, I'm really hoping that they do well out of this because it's a bit of a risk. I mean, that's how I pretty much see it. I know beans about business, but in my opinion, I really think it's somewhat of a risk to actually have something like this for free when you can cash in and make a little bit of money off of it. But moving on from there, honestly, guys, we all know exactly what they're trying to do. But I will say that they're doing it a lot better than what the WWE did. Now, what I mean by this is that we all know about CM Punk's epic promo or epic work that he did for Money in the Bank a few years back. And that pretty much set John Cena, that was practically the best career move moment of his entire life. Like, seriously. It literally set the WWE on edge. It made people see something new, and it was pretty much etched in the history of the WWE as probably one of the best works they have ever written and done for CM Punk. It set his career on high. And the way they did it was an excellent execution. But the way that they didn't continue it kind of really did make it fall short. But the one thing I can say about this is that even though AJ Styles did it in a very classy way, while CM Punk did it in a very nonchalant, brutish, well, not really brutish, but a nonchalant way, like, hey, if I beat you, I'm taking it out. Like, he literally was cutting everyone with his words like a knife through butter. And AJ Styles practically was like, I won and I'm leaving. And that's pretty much what he did. But I will say this, they're literally prolonging it. He hasn't showed up. He hasn't showed up in 2 weeks like they did with CM Punk, or maybe a month with CM Punk. They're literally keeping him out for a good long while, and they're actually showing what he is doing with the belt. They're showing that he is wrestling in Mexico. He's wrestling against other people with the title, with the championship title. They're actually prolonging this, and they're doing it well. Unfortunately, WWE didn't do so well when it came to the whole CM Punk thing. They could have prolonged it. They could have made it a lot more interesting, and they could have kept this character the same. But they didn't. They ended up making him some sort of a go-between. But instead of an anti-hero that he was, they ended up switching his character totally into either a complete heel or a go-between. But with AJ Styles, they're keeping him in the same character, and they're showing what he is doing with the belt while he is away from TNA. And that's what I like about that, and I really hope that WWE did the same during that time of the Summer of Punk. But they blew that moment. But I really do feel that if they continue doing what they're doing with AJ Styles and his storyline, that it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a really huge turning point, no pun intended, for AJ Styles as a character. So I'm really hoping that they continue doing this. Like, seriously, I really am. And as for the Aces and Eights, like I pretty much said in my last NG Minute, I don't like the Aces and Eights. And as soon as I found out that the Aces and Eights were still together, didn't really sit well with me, and I completely cut off the entire show. You know, that's how it was. I was that pissed off. But seeing the whole club versus career match, I'm hoping I won't get pissed off even more, because I really want the Aces and Eights to end. There's no point for them being anywhere on television at all anymore. They were like legions of 20 or 25 to 30 people. It were like a huge gang that nobody could break through. They were an enigma when they had their mask on, and it was fun watching the Aces and Eights when they first came out, but now they have no purpose. They need to disappear, and I am hoping that Anderson does not blow it and he goes back to being an enmity or whatever. I'm hoping that Anderson actually does stick around. I love Mr. Anderson. He is very entertaining to watch. I loved him when he was Mr. I loved him when he was Mr. Kennedy on the WWE. But I am hoping that history does not repeat itself and he gets axed in some strange way. Honestly, I'm really rooting for Mr. Anderson. I am hoping he beats the ever-loving crap out of Bully Ray. Just like he did with that guy that I really don't care much about. Garrett Bischoff. Yeah, that guy. But anyway, I really don't like the fact that Lady Tappa is a bodyguard. The reason why I'm saying is this, and I really do believe that there's a theory about this, and I'm going to call it the Snuka shadow theory. Or maybe the Tamina shadow theory. I don't know. I'll come up with a new name. But when Tamina Snuka, just like I said on my last review, Tamina Snuka is pretty much, she's stronger than the strong. But when she plays as a bodyguard to somebody that's weaker than her, it's going to eclipse the actual champion. It's going to eclipse the person that you're supposed to be hating, you're supposed to be giving the heat to. And all the heat comes to her. When Lady Tappa actually made her debut, she showed that she was a really strong woman that could not be stopped. Like, she was seriously a true Amazon. And people were afraid of her. So having her team up with Gail Kim, even though Gail Kim is probably one of the best heels in TNA, pretty much one of the only heels in TNA at this point in time, in my humble opinion, at Knockout. But she's a great Knockouts champion. But having Lady Tappa there at her side is going to completely just eclipse Gail Kim as a heel champion, because everyone's focused on Lady Tappa and what she's going to do. Shoot, the commentary were doing nothing but talking about Lady Tappa, and that's why I feel like it was a wrong idea to have her to be a bodyguard to Gail Kim. They need to separate her as quick as possible, or have her turn turncoat and take the belt from Gail Kim and let her be the heel champion. She's the best heel there is at this point. I love Gail Kim, but she has a lot to back it up. She is a great heel champion, and if she actually takes the belt from Gail Kim, it's going to have the crowd root for a hero, and that is what the whole purpose of a heel is. So I'm really hoping that they actually do take the belt away from Gail Kim and give it to Lady Tappa and have her have the belt for a few months. But honestly, guys, my overall thoughts of TNA is it was a pretty enjoyable show. I really am looking forward to Turning Point. I am hoping that the Aces and Eights are done and no more. Do you know who I am? Do you know how much it is annoying me right now? Like, I'm really sick of hearing Bully Ray's voice every time he comes out and says that. I'm looking for something more original. Please. Well, those are my overall thoughts of TNA and SmackDown. Leave a comment in the comment section below on how you feel about both shows. And stay tuned to my Raw review that's going to come up later on tonight. This is Nature Girl 30 signing off. Peace out. Later.